a studio renowned for legendary multi-million selling franchises like Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Mega Man, and... But let's take a trip back in time to an era when Capcom wasn't just about long-running franchises. Instead, they were experimenting with a unique one-off games that dared to be different. This golden age of creativity thrived on the PlayStation 2. There were popular games like Godhead, Okami, and Beautiful Joe, but do you remember hidden gems like Gregory Horror Show or Shadow of Rome? These weren't just games, they were creative experiments that felt like passion projects. Even though Onimusha became a series, it began and flourished during the PS2 era. On the PS3, we encountered unique titles like Dragon's Dogma and Dead Rising, which received a remaster not long ago. For the last decade, the biggest games we've seen, aside from definitive editions, include Resident Evil Revelations 2, Resident Evil 6, Street Fighter 5, Phoenix Wright 6, Dead Rising 4, Resident Evil 7, Monster Hunter World, a series that began on PS2, Devil May Cry 5, which also started on PS2 and thankfully was made after DMC Devil May Cry nearly killed the franchise, Resident Evil 2 Remake, Resident Evil 8, Monster Hunter Rise, Exoprimal, a live service game, Street Fighter 6, and Dragon's Dogma 2, which has faced criticism due to microtransactions. But beyond remakes and sequels, Capcom's new IPs have been relatively sparse. Enter Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess, a game that feels like Capcom is returning to its roots of experimentation. This game will test whether Capcom continues to rely heavily on its proven franchises or begins crafting fresh, creative experiences like in the days of old. The story of Kunitsu-Gami is simple. You play as Soh, a messenger of the mountain goddess, tasked with protecting the sacred priestess named Yoshiro. The mountain is overrun by demonic creatures known as the Thief, and it's up to Yoshiro to cleanse the Torii gates scattered throughout. Yoshiro's power lies in her ability to cleanse these Torii gates, which are the source of Seed's corruption. Your mission is to protect her and to retrieve 12 stolen sacred masks containing the goddess's power. That's your main quest, and while the plot is straightforward, it serves as the backbone for the gameplay. Your goal is clear guide Yoshiro from point A to point B, cleanse the gates, defeat the Seed, and to restore balance. Most of the story is conveyed at the very beginning and the end of the game, with some short cutscenes in between. Much like classics from the PS2 era, the game focuses on action and the immersive world itself, rather than endless exposition. What's intriguing is that there are no dialogues in the game, except for the narrator speaking at the start and finish. The events on screen speak for themselves. The stakes are clear. You're fighting to reclaim the mountain from dark forces, and the atmosphere does all the storytelling for you. Now that you understand your mission, let's dive into how you'll accomplish it. So, how do you play Kunitsu-Gami? Well, if you've heard about it, you've probably heard the term action tower defense thrown around, and that's a pretty accurate 3-word summary, but Capcom has labeled it Kagura Action Strategy, which while cool sounding, probably doesn't explain much. So let's break down what each part means. First up, strategy. The game is split between day and night cycles. By day, you lead Yoshiro through the stage, preparing the area for the nightfall, when the Seed will strike. During the day, you'll manage resources, assign roles, and ensure that Yoshiro's path is safe and clear. However, she moves very slowly, so slow that you might have time to binge-watch an entire season of your favorite anime while she walks. But what's neat is you don't have to wait. The game allows you to fast-forward time during the day, making the process much more convenient. This gives you plenty of opportunity to purify the village of any defilement, set up traps, rescue villagers, and gather orbs. These orbs allow you to assign villagers different combat roles ranging from basic classes like Woodcutter and Archer to more specialized roles like the Ascetic, who can freeze enemies in place, and the Sumo Wrestler, who serves as your tank. The game incorporates real-time strategy elements, requiring you to decide which roles to assign and where to position your villagers, adding depth to the gameplay. Throughout the game, you can unlock up to 12 different roles for your villagers. By the way, here's my tier list of villagers' roles. At night, the Seed come out, and that's when things really heat up. The gameplay shifts from preparation to protection. The Seed attack in waves, and it's your job to defend Yoshiro at all costs. The only way to lose the game is if she dies. Villagers who die will sit out the night, but So can respawn after a short cooldown. Now, what about the action? So can do up to 4 hit combos, and you can finish each combo with a special dance attack. You also have a few special abilities that go on cooldown after use, which adds an extra layer of strategy when fighting. Your defense options are basic. You can dodge to the side or block, but blocking costs a guard meter unless you perform a perfect guard. If your meter runs out, you're left wide open. As you progress, you'll unlock a skill tree for So, allowing you to upgrade your abilities, unlock new attack types like bow attacks, and even switch to a more powerful but slower fighting style later in the game. Each stage has a cycle of day and night, and when you survive the night, Yoshiro will again start moving. This cycle will repeat itself until Yoshiro reaches the last story gate in the stage. The game's pacing keeps things interesting, but some stages can drag, especially if you're replaying them for optional objectives. It would have been nice if there was a high risk, high reward mechanic, like spawning a harder enemy wave to speed things up. When you finish a stage, you unlock a village as your base. At first, the village is in ruins, but with the help of the villagers you rescued, you can rebuild it. Each time you visit, you'll assign villagers to rebuild specific buildings, and these upgrades take 1 or 2 in-game days to complete, but the in-game clock only moves forward when you finish another stage. Some buildings require planks to rebuild. These planks are scattered around the village, and you'll need to run around collecting them. Once you find them, you can assign villagers to pick them up and start rebuilding. It's a bit tedious though, and honestly feels like Capcom had bigger plans for the village building aspect, but it didn't quite hit the mark. After a while, it feels more like busy work than something fun. After completing any stage, return to your village to collect your loot. Some are collectibles, but more importantly, you'll score items that can upgrade both your villagers' rolls and Sock's abilities. It's not just about fighting, it's about leveling up your entire team. Inside each village, there's a tent where you can customize talismans and upgrade both the villagers and later Sock himself. Don't worry about making the wrong upgrades. Capcom was kind enough to let you reset all points if needed. One thing to note, a single playthrough won't be enough to upgrade everyone fully. You'll only manage to get about 80 to 90% of the upgrades. So if you're a completionist, you'll have to play through the New Game Plus. As you progress through the game, you will unlock more Mazou talismans. You can have up to 5 of them at once. Those talismans are your passive abilities that will give So and villagers more health, a stronger attack, or some special effect like taking no damage from the first strike each night. But it's not just about defending Yoshiro and fighting Sid. There are also boss battles, and they're one of the highlights of Kunitsu-Gami. Each boss is unique with its mechanics and weaknesses. Some bosses are brute force brawlers, while others require you to use specific tactics, like lighting all the lanterns in arena to make them vulnerable. You'll face more than 10 bosses and each encounter feels different and fresh. Early bosses can be quite challenging when your abilities are still limited, but once you've upgraded So and your villagers, mid-game bosses can be more about brute force. That said, the variety in their designs and attack patterns keeps things exciting throughout the game. One of the strongest aspects of Kunitsu-Gami is its level design. Each stage introduces new mechanics that build on what you've already learned. It's like the classic Mario approach, where the game starts simple and gradually ramps up the complexity. For example, in one level you have to navigate a cave where you can only see enemies on minimap after lighting lanterns, while in another you also have to deal with a new enemy that can put out those lanterns. I really love this design. There's never a dull moment when it comes to stage variety. Every level adds something new or is an evolution of a previous idea, so you're constantly kept on your toes strategizing how to use your villagers and your abilities effectively. Now, let's talk about the Kagura part of the Kagura action strategy. Kagura is a traditional Japanese art form, a sacred dance meant to summon gods. In Japanese mythology, the goddess Amaterasu was once hidden in a cave, plunging the world into darkness. Another goddess, Ame-no-Uzume, performed a dance to lure her out, thus restoring light to the world. This is the inspiration for the rituals performed by Yoshiro throughout the game. As Yoshiro cleanses the torii gates, the villagers perform music that mirrors this ancient Kagura tradition. The art, music, and atmosphere all drawn from Japanese folklore, adding a spiritual and almost divine tone to the game's atmosphere. There's also plenty of lore to explore in-game, from emaki scrolls based on traditional Japanese ukiyo-e artwork to sacred ema plaques that provide deeper insights into the world of Kunitsu-Gami. There's even a place to read about various Japanese sweets. The game encourages you to take your time to appreciate these details, deepening the connection to its cultural roots. Let's address the elephant in the room, the game's graphics. They aren't groundbreaking and some textures might remind you of the PS3 era, but what the game lacks in graphical polish, it makes up for in art direction. The design of the seed is straight up wild, heavily inspired by Japanese yokai. These demons come in all shapes and sizes, with bizarre body parts and nightmarish designs. The attention to detail shows that the developers had a clear passion for the project. Fun fact, many of the buildings and models in the game were scanned versions of real miniatures made by developers. The special effects were also first made in real life, captured, and then recreated in the game. It's rare to see such dedication to the art process in games today, especially for a project of this scale. And the music? It's perfect. Soundtrack fuses ancient ritualistic tones with eerie, atmospheric melodies that set the stage for each level. When night falls and Sid approaches, the tension in the music is palpable, making each battle feel like a desperate, sacred struggle. Now let's talk about some of the smaller details that round out the experience. One neat feature is that as you upgrade your villagers, their masks evolve. offering a visual progression as they become stronger. This game also features a new Game Plus mode, which is essential if you want to unlock the true ending. Beating the game twice lets you complete additional objectives and fully upgrade So and your villagers. However, there's one feature that feels like a grind: the talismans. After completing everything in the game and beating New Game Plus, you will still miss 7 Mazo talismans. You unlock one new talisman each time you beat the game, meaning you'd have to complete the game 7 more times to unlock them all. That's a lot of playthroughs for even the most hardcore fans, and honestly, it doesn't feel entirely worth it, unless you really love the game. Finally, a quick tip for AMD Radeon GPU users, specifically those with RX 6600 and 6700 cards. There's a known bug that prevents the game from loading a specific level. There's something wrong with AMD drivers. Thankfully, there's a fix. I'll leave a link to the driver you need in the description below. And that's Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. It's a bold, unique experiment from Capcom. One that, while not perfect, showcases a lot of creativity, blending action, strategy, and rich cultural role into one unforgettable package. I am giving Kunitsu-Gami a solid 1 out of 10.
Huh?
What's that? You can pet dogs? Okay, 2 out of 10. And also cats? 3 out of 10. Also pigs, cows, snakes, pheasants, rabbits, and even deers? Okay, alright. 8 out of 10 it is. It's not for everyone, but for those who appreciate a unique, thoughtful, and strategic experience, it's definitely worth your time.